success stories about silver lining and their experience. You know, even personal wins. I mean, we're all about goal setting and positivity and personal enrichment. So if you have a success story in your life or about silver lining, either one, please share with us. We'd love to hear it. What's something you can think of, Chance? I always put you on the spot.
Always put me on the spot. Well, what we were just talking about at lunch, and since Sherry's on this call today, maybe I'll call her out a little bit on this one. But Sherry, I don't remember if you remember, but a couple of years ago, we had a little competition at the NFR. And I think it was, if I won that competition, I got to take Stingray around the barrels.
Uh-huh.
And you have not let me do that yet. So
I don't know that you won.
Yeah, there you go, Sherry. Hang tight there, girl. I told him, I said, if you can get her to let you ride that horse, I says, you're the best salesman ever.
Yeah.
So let's have some context about this story a little bit. What happened?
Well, I guess, we were doing I think it was like make me laugh competition, and we're supposed to say like dad jokes or corny jokes. And anybody that knows me really well, I can't keep a grin off my face. I like to smile and laugh a lot. So I think it was like the first two words out of Sherry's mouth, and I was laughing. So and then Sherry has ice water running through her veins. So and she doesn't have a sense of humor. So
are we throwing digs out here today? I mean, geez.
This is how we want to do that. All right.
I'm totally joking. Sherry, you're super fun.
I'll help you keep him off of her now.
Yeah.
It kind of sounds, by the way you explained it, Chance, that she probably won.
Yeah, she did.
Yes.
So what you're saying is you're just trying to finagle a ride on Stingray is what you're trying to do.
Yeah, I am.
Can't blame you for trying, bud.
Yeah, I don't blame you for trying either. It's okay, but you can keep trying.
She looks like a good ride to me, so.
Yeah, she was a lot of fun.
Here's the deal, Sherry. If Chance gets to take her around the barrels, you got to let me heel a steer on her. Like,
okay.
that's the deal.
That's the deal. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So I'm just saying I'll probably never get a heel steer on Stingray. So
well, if they get to do that, Sherry, I get to be able to take her on a trail ride to the mountains and pack an elk out on her.
She would probably like that the best.
Yeah. So I can't believe nobody's wanting to share any wins right now. I want to share a win a little bit. When I was on vacation, everybody says vacation, in Miami, I got to meet a lot of new people. We've been, I always refer to mentors a lot here. And one of my mentors that I started following a couple of years ago, a guy by the name of Grant Cardone, and some of you may be familiar with him, but I actually got the opportunity to finally meet him and shake his hand. And him and his team are part of the reason that we're doing some of this stuff. Within their company, they're doing a lot of things like this with the Zoom calls, and just sharing this information that we have. And that's where we kind of got this idea of doing this. And I credit them for being transformational and allowing us to have the thought to do this, because we get to meet all of you guys from all over the country and all over the world and talk about silver lining herbs and what we do. And it makes it a lot easier. So we're glad that we got that. And I'm glad that I got to shake his hand and meet him and visit with him a little bit. So let's roll in here. Why don't we just get things started a little bit, and as we bring people in, we can talk about wins and successes as we go. But as you guys all know, Sherry Cervi is on this call today. So Sherry, thank you for being here today. But let's, I don't know, Dad, if you want to start things off before Sherry, but tell the story of how Sherry come about with Silver Lining Herbs, and then after you, Dad, let's have you jump in here, Sherry, and tell your story a little bit about. Everybody wants to talk about Stingray, obviously, but Dad, go ahead and kick things off.
Well, actually, I've known Sherry for many years, but I was at an event in I can't remember if it was Marana or Casa Grande or someplace down there, and Sherry approached me and said, "What do you got for mares that are to help them be better?" And I said, "Well, we've got a couple of different products, the Mare Fertility and the Mare Moods." And then I explained to her what the difference were. One, the Mare Fertility supports the estrogen in a mare, and the Mare Moods supports the progesterone production in the mare. And so depending on which way that mare is lacking, whether it's progesterone or estrogen, is the combination that you pick. And anyway, I explained that to her, and she was interested. And at that time, I'm not even sure Stingray was around yet, was she, Sherry?
I don't think so. It was for another mare that I was running before Stingray.
Right.
Was
right.
I
And
don't
so
even think it was
we had multiple success stories with it, but never under competition as stringent as what Sherry was going to put her horses under. So I was not real positive at the time that it would hold up under the scrutiny of the miles and the in and out of the trailers and just the hardness of the travel that rodeo horses are put under. So I was not totally, I couldn't just absolutely say without a shadow of a doubt that it would do the job, but I said, try it and see how you get along with it. And obviously, I guess, Sherry, here's where you can pick up. You tell me what happened after you got the product and left.
Well, I used it on that mare that I had asked you initially about, but when Stingray was 6, I really started hauling her pretty heavy, and she basically spent her whole rodeo career on mare moves. And I would when it was time to start trying to flush her and get embryos out of her, I would stop feeding it to her for about a month. It never hurt anything as far as reproductive wise. And then when I went back to competing on her, kept it on her, and she was a pretty easy mare to haul, but I still, I thought that any way I could help her in that department, I would. And so that's, she lived on it. I loved the results, and was very happy with it. And as I haven't had any mares to compete on right after Stingray, I've had geldings, but now that I have more mares to compete on, they also will be on it, as a daily maintenance.
Very good. Yeah. Well, and so that kind of give me the impression, in fact, the absolute, that it would hold up under those kind of pressures. And so thank you, Sherry, for doing that for us too. I mean, we're always trying to learn here, and there's so much to learn. I listened to a guy by the name of Hugh Nibley, and he says, if you think you know something, he says, write down everything you know in a notebook, write down the subjects of everything that you're an expert in. And then on the next page, and for the rest of the notebook, write down things that you don't know about and you have answers, or that you have questions to. And that, my book is full of questions, not many answers. So
right.
Anyway, we're always searching for the answer. I mean, and you think about that, even the smartest people out there, the ones that's acclaimed by history of knowing so much stuff, they only have a short amount of time in their lifetime. I mean, everybody's life's the same time. I mean, we have a certain amount of time here, and so we only have so much time to learn all we can. We're always learning. Anyway, that's amazing. How did she hold up under that? It looked like she's always confident. Like at the National Finals Rodeo, a lot of those horses are bouncing off the walls, and And she just kind of walked in there like she had all the confidence in the world.
Oh yeah, definitely. You know, that was one thing that Stingray, she did have a lot of confidence, and it showed in her competition. And you know, I really try to give my horses as much confidence as you can. But I also think feeding them the right, you know, having them on a good nutrition is really important for a performance horse.
Yeah. Here's another story, Sherry, and I don't know whether you're familiar with this story or not, but didn't she win the Barrel Horse of the Year a couple of times?
She won the AQHA once, and then had the Horse with Most Heart at the NFR a couple times.
Okay. Now, this is where the story really gets cool, because you was feeding her mother the herbs, right?
Uh-huh.
Okay. And in Oregon, 3 states away, there was another young lady feeding her horse, her mare, the herbs at the same time. They had colts. Your horse had, your mare had Stingray, and help me with the name, Chance.
Brenda.
Brenda Mays. It slipped my mind. But anyway, Brenda Mays' mare had a colt they called Jethro. And so you win the Barrel Horse accolades one year, she wins it the next year, you win it the following year. And so, you know, that is huge. You know, I mean, where's that happen? I mean, it's just something that, you know, is more than the quality of horse. It's what you do for them after they hit the ground and before they even hit the ground. And so, you know, this is amazing to me that, you know, there's other stories, but that's one that I don't know if you knew that or not, but
no, I did not, but that's pretty, it comes full circle.
Yeah, exactly. And so anyway, I guess we can just kind of go into the whole of it then. Did you have De Niro was on the stallion fertility too, right?
He was. And so what made us start him on it is probably about 7 years ago, about in the middle of the breeding season, we noticed that his semen count was going, you know, kind of was backing off a little bit, and he still had several mares to breed. So, you know, I was like, we need to put him on the stallion fertility, and we did, and it immediately increased his semen count and his overall breeding, you know, season that year. So from then on, about a month or 2 months before breeding season started, we would always put him on it. And we now have our younger studs on it, and can tell a huge difference when they're on it. We love that product. I think it's imperative in a stallion's career.
Well, that's cool, and that kind of leads me, segues into the next idea here. Is a lot of times the young stallions that are clear full of libido and can't get their mind on the job that you're giving them to do will benefit greatly from the stallion fertility too. Because like I said earlier, we have to name these products something. We name this stallion fertility because it absolutely does that, but it also balances those hormones to where those young studs that are having trouble going to work, and a lot of times they'll cut a really nice stud so they can work him. And in fact, if they would just put him on something that balanced those hormones, he'll go to work for them and they don't have to cut him. And so real often that's the case. And it just makes my heart ache when I hear somebody say, oh, we cut this stud so we could cut on him, you know, or we could rein on him, or we could run barrels on him because he couldn't keep him, keep his mind in the game. Well, this product, not only does it make a horse that you're wanting to breed mares with, raise their counts and so on, but it also helps those young studs put their mind back in the game, and that's just way cool.
Yeah, that is.
And so you've used it on young horses as well, then?
I have, yes, yeah, for sure. We can tell a huge difference on our younger studs, and I haven't been riding a stud since De Niro. You know, I competed on him, and we ran barrels and roped on him. But I have some younger studs that are coming up, and I'm going to be in the same situation you're talking about. You know, they're young, and I want to keep them a stud, but want their mind focused on also being a performance horse. So I'm excited about. They're only 2, so I haven't got to that part yet, but I definitely plan on keeping them, on the stallion fertility.
Well, that's cool. And isn't it neat to know that there's an alternative to the knife, right?
Right. Yes.
I mean, you can only cut them one time. After that, it's like, you lost that nice bloodline. You lost that stud because you had to make a trade-off. And I just want people to know and understand that there is an alternative there as well. So that's a cool thing. I'm going to back up to when that particular product was born. My mother had a business where she helped a lot of people and so on with naturopathic processes. And one day I was in at her store and this guy come in and he says, "Have you got anything that'll help a stallion become fertile?" And he says, "I bought this Arabian stallion." And he says, "This horse was valued at $150,000 until they found out that he wasn't fertile. And then," he said, he said, "then he came into my price range." He said, "I give $5,000 for this horse." He said, "I've just been trail riding on him." But he says, "I've got 2 mares and I'd love to breed them mares to this horse if you thought you had something." I said, "Well, let me do some homework." And so I went to work and come up with this combination. I have never changed it since that day. That combination, he ended up breeding 2 of his own mares and another mare for another guy. All 3 of them caught, and he had colts out of all 3 of those. And so this particular combination hit the ground running, the stallion fertility. The same way with the mare fertility. The mare product, if you've got mares that are not able to conceive when they're exposed, then this particular product it just helps balance those hormones and supplies the estrogen to prepare that mare for conceiving. Now, in the spring, like it is right now, the vegetation all increases in estrogen. And so by nature, another one of God's little deals here, he just he never missed anything. He knows everything about all this stuff, and he knows that they got to have estrogen. So all the grazing animals this time of year, the vegetation increases in estrogen so that they're prepared from early spring to mid-spring to conceive. And that's when most of the animals on this planet bear their young is in the spring, and so in the summer. And so anyway, that's what these products, that's how they was born, and it's just amazing that they work like they do. Now you said you was using the Mare Moods on Stingray. Now a lot of times people use Regimate. What did you notice that she was better there, or did you ever even try the Regimate?
I never did, because I wanted to keep it as natural as I could for her. That was just, and she wasn't one of those mares that was bad when she came into heat. So I never had her on Regimate ever, her whole career.
Sure.
I was happy with what she did on the Mare Moods, and that was it.
Okay. Now, there's a balance. There's a balance between estrogen and progesterone in these mares. And if they're out of balance, that's when you start seeing mares kicking the trailer or being mean around other horses, or assuming the position of the stallion and just being very aggressive and herding and that kind of stuff. If that's, and people are calling me all the time, they'll say, is that an estrogen or a progesterone thing? And I will tell them, there's no way for you to look and tell. And there's tests that they do. The tests at best are non-conclusive. And so oftentimes what I recommend to people is that they try one and see if, and depending on where they're at, if you're in Arizona, the Mare Moods is going to be a better deal. It's been my experience. It just seems like that there's more mares require or ask for the Mare Moods, but in the northern hemisphere, there's more mares, and this is just a rule of thumb, that ask for or require the mare fertility. Once again, I don't know exactly why that is, but that's just been my experience. So what I tell people is to get one of the products and try it, and recommend the one that I think according to that atmosphere that they're in or that location. And then if that's not the one, seal that one up, put it on the shelf in a cool, dry place, excuse me, and then try the other one, because if it's not one, it's going to be the other one. And I was at Las Vegas a few years ago, and there was a guy there. He come up to me and he said, hey, he said, what do you got for a mare that's really witchy? And I said, well, I said, we've got a couple of different mare products. He says, come here, walk with me. So we walked out to the parking lot, and he had a trailer out there. Of course, there's trailers all around, and his mare was tied to the trailer. As we walked up to the trailer, I mean, we're 50 feet from this mare still, and she pins her ears and rings her tail and acts like she's wanting to kick somebody and raising a leg and kicking the air and just, I said, holy heck. I says, you riding her? And he says, yeah. He says, I'm up in the morning. And I says, let's get her on something right now and see how it gets along. So the next morning, I'm at the coffee shop there having a glass of orange juice, and he walks up there and he says, unfreaking believable. He said, that mare just scored the highest she's ever scored for me. He said, would it work that quick? And I says, sometimes it does. Because what happens is these mares, they've got parts that get inflamed, and it hurts them. And so especially like when they're being hauled, that right over that bridge, right between that heavy back end and that big massive front end, you've got a bridge, and it's right over that loins, and it bounces there, and all of that stuff moves right below that, and it inflames those ovaries, and pretty soon they just can't take it anymore. They just have had all they want. They don't care if it hurts their feet or what kicks the side out of your trailer. That's what they do. And so I've seen many cases like this. In fact, I knew a guy that would not put his mare back on with his geldings. He was afraid she wasn't the highest one on his list, and he left her there. He left her right to the side of the road. And I said, holy heck, no. So, I mean, just so many sad stories because people don't know, and so this is way cool that we have a chance to voice this and get it out there where people can see it. But what's cool about this is there's no harmful side effects. If you get the wrong product, if you get the mare moods and they're needing the mare fertility, you didn't hurt them. You'll just notice that if they don't improve, or if they get worse in a short time, well, then you got to change. But there's no harmful side effects. You won't hurt them. You won't screw up their cycles for another day. So anyway, it's just cool. Another one of those things, God didn't leave anything out. He just made it happen. So.
All right. Well, I was just letting you guys roll on. That was some good stories back and forth, and we enjoyed you sharing those, Sherry and Dad. Let's jump into some questions here. A lot of these were answered, but I just want some reiteration, just so people, just in case it didn't sink in as well, just to make sure. When mares are in season, do their ovaries swell and cause them to pain and discomfort? Would Moody mares help this? And obviously you just went over that, but I just want you to reiterate that again, Dad, just so that she knows.
They're not supposed to swell and be uncomfortable when they're in a cycle. That's not what causes that. What causes it is an irritation of some sort. So no, that shouldn't be that way. And if it is that way, then you need one of these combinations to help balance those hormones. And you could very well have an infection. If there's an infection present, then obviously that would cause inflammation as well. And that's when they're uncomfortable. They shouldn't be hurting just because they're mares.
Okay. So we have a lot of questions about regiment. That's a popular one. We have a person here that says, Connie Crumweed asks, my mare is on daily regimen. Has Moody mare been shown to work just as effectively as the regimen? Does Moody mare suppress estrus in the same way that regiment does?
I'm not a druggist, so I can't comment totally on Regimate, but I can say that all drugs have harmful side effects over either short term or over an extended period of time. So in my estimation, there's no comparison, because I don't want something to be problematic a month or a year or 5 years down the road. We're never going to want to deal with the problem. But if we can deal with the issue at hand without the harmful side effects, that to me seems like a no-brainer. So anyway, that's how I feel about it.
Okay. Next question here, another regiment question. I tried my mare on regiment and it didn't seem to help. Trying to help her be more comfortable. On kidney and liver support now, and had an allergy test done, so I know she is eating the right food now to not upset her. What else can I do?
Well, if she's getting the results she wants as far as the mare issues are concerned, then I wouldn't change anything. But if you have a mare and you try if Regimate is not doing it and they still have mare issues, then probably they're needing estrogen. And estrogen is produced, is supported in these mares with our mare fertility. So I'd try the mare fertility. And once again, just save the mare moods, seal it and put it in the cool, dark room somewhere, or, out of the sunlight and out of the moisture. And because next time these things ebb and flow. And it might be that next time they'll need the progesterone or the mare moods. So try one. If it doesn't do them some good in a few days, or if they get worse, then you've got the wrong one.
I have a question here. It's a couple questions down, but I want to get to it now because it kind of ties in to what you're just talking about. And somebody asked, can you use both of these at the same time just to cover all your bases?
No, that's like driving with your foot on the brake and the gas at the same time. You can't go, and you're going to wear your brakes out. It's one or the other. Okay, there's an imbalance there, and if there's too much of one, well, then just bring the other up, and you'll know that as soon as you try it. If you try it, I mean, within a week, and a lot of times overnight you'll know, but within a week, if they don't get better, or if they get worse when you try it, then you got the wrong one.
Yeah. Tana Westner, she says, hi from Maryville, British Columbia, Canada. Question for you. How do you know it's a progesterone or an estrogen issue? I know you went over this, but, I mean, it just seems to be a popular question. And I mean, is there a better way to figure this out?
Well, the product is somewhere in the neighborhood of $70. If you have a vet come out and take a test, that the best they can do is the test is non-conclusive. They say, well, it might be, and so that's what they'll charge you for. And I'm not saying if you want to do that, go ahead, do that. But just know that if you want to try one of them, just try, say, because of your location, you're in British Columbia, I would try the mare fertility first. And if that doesn't work, or if it gets worse, simply seal it up and get the other one started, and it'll be one of the two.
Okay. Let's go to Alicia Main. Are you on this call? Let's ask to unmute Alicia, because the other questions were from out of here. Let's get somebody on here to ask these questions. Alicia, are you there?
I am.
Welcome.
Thanks, guys. This is great.
Yeah. So you have a couple questions. What are they?
I
let
do.
you ask them.
Okay, so I have a wild Mustang mare. She's still untouchable. She's probably going to give birth any day this week. And so I was just curious, like, do you find that the Mustangs have the same I know metabolically everything is going to function the same. Do you find that they have the same types of requirements as domesticated? That's one question.
Let me answer it then.
Yes.
Yes, they have this, they're a horse.
Same.
They're going to have
Okay.
this, they're going to have the same metabolic issue, requirements. Now, the difference is a horse that's in the wild had that variety. They could pick anything they wanted to pick. They're not somebody out there spraying what we call weeds out of there. And so those weeds are what we're selling. They're the variety. They're that smorgasbord. They're what that horse needs to stay healthy. And so now that she's in a confined or a domesticated environment, you have to supply them. So
that's my next question. She's
Okay.
doing great, but once she has the baby, like, are there certain things that I should be looking at, or certain things I should be, you know, aware of or thinking about to see if I see any changes in her, and what would those be?
Has she already had the colt or no?
No, she's due like any day.
Okay.
Like, she's like, it's any day.
Okay. What I recommend is that you put them on like the number 10 maintenance,
Okay.
because what we're asking these mares to do is nothing short of a miracle. They have to take the ingredients, the nutrients that's in their body, and produce another horse. They got to come up with a whole nother animal that replicates them. And so they've got to have all of the ingredients necessary in ample supplies to make another horse. And so that really pulls them down. And so what I recommend is when we breed the mare, get them on the maintenance, that gives them the nutrient they need to make that other horse. Now, we can be specific about different needs as they arise, or if they do arise, but for mares that's making another horse, well, they got to have plenty of the nutrients.
Okay, which I 100% agree with. I guess my question is, she's going to foal any day. So we're now on the, you know, closer to the other side of it. Are there things that I'm not aware of that she doesn't need, or maintenance will still take care of that too?
Well, the main thing for mares that are ready to foal is make sure they got room to move. They need exercise.
Agreed.
In fact, when I was a kid, we would feed on one side of the field and the water was on the other side. So they at least had to make that trip every day. And
Okay.
so the exercise is really important, and fresh water, obviously. At this point, you've either made it or you haven't. But another thing that I'll say, that if you have any issues with that colt, when it hits the ground, that foal, you can put whatever you want in the foal in the grain and let the mare eat it, and she'll give it to the colt through the milk.
Perfect.
And so you don't have to argue with them, don't have to get them in and give them a shot or squeeze them behind a gate or any of that stuff. Just
I don't do any of those. Like, she just talks to me. She tells me what she needs. She came in with a 4-month-old foal, so he's now 11 months old. He's doing amazing. She doesn't seem like she's in any stress. She doesn't want to be touched, which is fine. I was like, oh, you know, we don't have to touch. I just need to watch over you. And the last question I have is, we don't know if she's having a horse or a Zorse. Because there was a zebra stud and there was a paint stud. And this was way before she came to me. So does a Zorse have the same? Like,
yeah,
if it is a Zorse, we're dealing same requirements.
Treat it the same.
Okay, cool.
I want to know what you're hoping for.
You know what? I'm happy with either. She was rescued out of a kill pen, and I work a lot with a Mustang rescue, and she just gonna be what it's gonna be. Either way,
Yeah.
I'm gonna learn.
If you have
know?
if you have a Zorse, is there a possibility I can maybe buy that from you?
No, because I'm gonna try to keep them all together. Like, I wanna literally, I'm an animal communicator, so I wanna learn directly from mommy. Like, what are the actual energetics? Like, how does she train the baby? I'm not concerned about what I can do. I'm like, how do you do this? Like, show me, you know, every day. So yeah, I don't know. But I could, you know, you could come and visit it.
Let's go.
There you
Okay.
go, Joe.
All
Thank
right.
you. Thank you.
Well, yeah, thank you so much for the question. I want to jump down here. I want to bring Sherry back in. We've got a question for you, Sherry, and I'm gonna unmute Brooke Delaney. Are you there, Brooke?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
All right. I can hear you. I just can't see you.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Avoiding video.
Yeah. You have a question for Sherry. What is that?
So my question for you is, what other silver lining herb supplements did you keep Stingray on to keep it running competitively for so long with that heart of competition? And how did you get the longevity out of her that you did?
So I always did a kidney and liver for 10 days in the spring and the fall. Before I left for the summer rodeos, for about 10 days, I'd stick her on immune. And then about 10 days before the NFR, I did immune. And then through the year, she stayed on Inflammade and Feet and Bone with the Mare Moons. And that's pretty much it. I also, she either got whole oats or Renew Gold as her grain supplement. I try to keep it as natural as I can. And I think that's, you know, it's important to me to not feed a lot of sugars because it's hard for their body to break it down. And so anyways, but that's what she did. And she, you know, it is hard to keep a rodeo horse going and having longevity. And I was very fortunate. She did well, and she still is. She looks great. She's 19 and, you know, is sound and happy.
That's awesome. Now, I guess, did you ever keep her on the joint support, or did, I guess, the Feet and Bone kind of cover?
It did. I did for a while go to the joint support. I just felt with her, I liked the Feet and Bone. It was kind of personal preference, but I have fed the joint for a lot, and I do really like that. I tried not to put her on, you know, too many and overload her system also.
Right. Okay.
You know, Mickey and I had talked about that a lot. I mean, there's probably about 5 or 6 of them that I think would cover every, you know, do it. And I also fed like my younger horses, I keep them on the maintenance. I do really like that product too. But for Stingray, I did the Inflammade and Feet and Bone the most.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Let me add just a little bit to that, Sherry. I mean, you really did an excellent job there of covering that. But I want people to understand that when you have horses that you want to be as good away from home as they are at home, it's all about their immune system. If their immune system's strong, and if they feel good when they leave home, they're going to do the same job when they leave home. Oftentimes people go somewhere and that pulls the immune system down because of the hauling and the change of feed and the change of atmosphere, and there might be a bug in the air or whatever. And if that horse is susceptible to all of that kind of stuff, then and they don't feel their best, then they're not going to do as good as they do at home. But they ought to do as good away from home as they do at home.
Yeah, totally agree. I love the immune. That it was imperative. I still do it to all my horses that I'm hauling, that twice a year. Or if I feel like something, you know, I've been maybe where somebody's horses was sick or, you know, just something, then I keep it in the trailer at all times.
Outstanding. Yeah. Dad, I want to talk about something here before we jump into some more questions. You know, we always refer to the acupressure points. Let's talk about the acupressure point for the mares, or the endocrine system, if you will.
Okay, Chance, have you got that picture? Okay,
Chance, Johnny on the spot.
If you'll notice, there's an endocrine point there. You see underneath the belly, it says endocrine, and the line draws up there to that point. Interpreted, if you come about 2.5 inches straight forward of the hip bone, the tubercoxy. You come 2.5 inches, 2.5 inches, depending on the size of the horse, forward, and then down 1 inch. And then just take your finger and just press on that. Now, if that's sensitive, there's an imbalance somewhere. And that will be sensitive way before the mare starts kicking on the trailer or throwing a fit and causing you fits at the barrel racing or the jumping or the cutting or reining, whatever event that you're in. And so that's just a real good point. And that's the same on mares and stallions and geldings. It's an endocrine point. And so that point is going to be sensitive. It's right behind that last rib, if you notice, and about an inch down from the top of the tubercoxy. Okay. And so that's a real easy point to check. I mean, you're going to be right there to throw a saddle on them, just reach back. I will tell you, kind of maybe tip their nose to you a little bit. Some mares or gelding studs will kick you when you press on that if it's sensitive. So
I was just gonna say the same thing. You might want to put your hip against their shoulder when you check it.
Yeah, yeah. And I've had them come terribly close to kicking me over that point right there. So
Nikki, you mentioned geldings right there, and this is a question that I get a lot of times. Like a customer will be speaking with me and say, I've got a gelding that's mounting mares and acting study. You know, can I use your calming products on them? And I said, no, we got a different approach to that. You want to kind of talk about that?
Well, I would, a gelding is just a stallion without a couple of parts. They cut these parts off and the horse is still the same horse, still got all the rest of the parts, and still a lot of times they'll have them same desires. But we'll go back and refer back to what we was talking about earlier with Sherry and them younger horses. When you have a young stallion or any stallion that you want to balance out, you may just try that stallion fertility and see how it works on them. Now, I'm not going to say that it's going to 100% change or stop it, because, you know, it is a natural thing.
All right. Sorry, I got off track there. I'm looking, I'm actually in the back of the warehouse and we had a truck show up. So I was looking at the driver. So sorry about that. Let's go to Jody. Do you want to, let's get Jody unmuted. I see that she's on this call. So if you're on this call, I'd rather you guys answer or ask the questions than me answer them. So I'm going to mute myself. Let's get Jody unmuted.
You there, Jody?
Maybe Jody's not on here. So I'll just ask the question right quick. And if she happens to be on here, she can pipe in. If a mare has not been bred and is older, say, than 15, would you avoid breeding?
I wouldn't. And I've put that one to the test too. I had a mare that was maybe one of the better horses I've ever owned in my life. And she always wanted a colt, but I never felt like there was a time I could get off of her. I was using her so much at the time. And so finally, when she was 15 years old, I exposed her to a stud, and I let her have 3 colts in a row. And then after she felt fulfilled in life, I quit breeding her. But that's my experience. And no, if they've got all the right stuff going on, they'll conceive. And they'll be fine with it. Once again, do the right things nutritionally to help them through that. You know, like you certainly want to do all you can to help that mare and make it as comfortable as possible on them. So yeah, the age does not worry me.
Guys, let's get Laura Lee unmuted. Is she still on here? Yeah, there they are. Laura Lee, are you there?
You hear me?
Gotcha.
Okay, I have a
I can't hear you.
I've got a mare from the Great Plains Oklahoma, and I'm going to breed her in June. Whether I need her and whether I need her, I'm going to continue to rope out her after she's bred.
Mickey,
Did
her
you say-
question is, she's going to be breeding a mare that she's breakaway roping off of. What does she need to have her on after she is bred? What does she need to be on?
The number 10 maintenance. And then let me add this too. I wasn't specific enough. After that mare, and as she comes time to deliver, I like to put them on the immune support and the infection fighter, the INFX. That way you've kind of hedged your bed against any infections and so on. And I'll reiterate that whatever you give to that mare, she's going to give to that colt through the milk. So it's an excellent way of taking care of the colt. Usually about 18 days after the mare has that colt, colt's going to develop some scours. It's a heat scours. That's not a big deal. But if it does turn into watery scours or something like that, then you want to make sure to get something for infection in them. But once again, don't worry about giving it to the colt. Just give it to the mare in regular grain, your oats, and let them go on with it. The mare will give it to the colt.
Vicki, I had this question just texted to me. This person is just getting ready to have a foal, and they want to breed that mare back in her full heat. And they had trouble getting that mare bred previously. So they want to get her on the mare fertility. How do you do that when you're going to breed her, like as soon as she has that foal? Well,
it's not going to hurt her to be on mare fertility a little before the foal's born. But that 2 weeks may very well be enough anyway. Probably is. In fact, I've seen them. 2 weeks is a plenty on sometimes, some mares. So obviously she's fertile enough. She's got a colt in her. So yeah, I wouldn't be afraid to do that.
Yeah, so Diana Woodrow on here asked a question that goes along with that. It says, it sounds like these products work almost instantly, ? So can you give some context on what your opinion is on when they go to work?
Well, the herbs, just like food, goes to work as soon as it goes into your digestive system. As soon as it goes in your mouth, it starts the process. And a lot of times you'll see real quick results, but it does not mean that the issue is eradicated, or the symptoms, the symptoms might subside a little bit, but it doesn't mean that the issue is eradicated because you've seen it good one time. What we're dealing with here is a product that given time in the animal strengthens that cell to where there's no problem. And that's different than drugs. So it's not like drugs. It's not an absolute instant gratification, but a lot of times you'll see positives quickly. Like I was saying about that cutting horse mare that was in Las Vegas. She wasn't healed up after one application of the herbs, but she did a great job. She felt good and done a great job. Now, if you want it to happen frequently, you need to give it often enough that the mare completely heals up.
Yeah, and I know that you went over this a little earlier, but I just want to get in, it's a question I get a lot here is when mares do have these foals and stuff, they're like, how do I get my foals to start eating the product, or when can I start giving it to them? And I know that you said, about mama having the herbs, like maybe just elaborate a little bit more on that, and if they're still sucking on mom.
Well, if they're eating with their, obviously they're going to be eating with their mother because the mother's eating while they're with them. But they'll start eating the herbs right along with the mare, and they're developing a taste through the milk. And so it's very, very simple and very easy for them to accept.
Absolutely. Ton of good info on here. I'm trying to read through these questions. Yeah, it sounds like Laura Lee's mic was acting up, so I'm glad we got that question answered for you. I'm looking through Facebook and I'm not seeing a lot more questions there, but Dad, you know, we're getting to the end of this hour, but is there anything that you can think of that we haven't addressed today that maybe you could that everybody needs to know, and you know, from a maintenance standpoint or whatever it might be?
Well, I just want to reiterate that anything that we're doing in our body, we're just in one aspect, we're like a car. When we run out of gas, we're going to stop, and it don't matter if it's a Mercedes-Benz or a Volkswagen. When they run out of fuel that makes them go forward, they stop. And we and the animals are not really much different in that respect. That's about the only aspect that's the same. But in all reality, if we don't have the nutrients necessary to perform the functions in our body at a usable form at the cellular level, then it's null and void. You know, we just, and that's why the herbs work so well, is because the cell recognizes that as food, and so it takes it in and uses it, and then the carbon dioxide's expelled, and that goes back through the filtering systems and out on the ground. And I will say that we've talked a lot about horses today, but it goes the same with dogs and people. It's, you know, it's the same. It's the same. You just need the nutrients. And very, very seldom is it actually infertility is what's causing the problem of not being able to be pregnant. So apply it to your dog, your horse, your person, or whatever.
We had a couple more questions rolling here we can get to before we close out here. One is from Teresa Bourne. She says, possible insulin resistant mares having difficulty being bred. Can the mare fertility help?
Yes, I would try it. I would try it in any application. It's not going to hurt an insulin resistant horse. It might be the very answer to the question. Who knows? Okay.
I'm going to unmute Marilyn. Marilyn had one question come in here. Marilyn, are you there? Let's see. She may not be able to unmute. Some people are at work and cannot unmute, but her question is, when using the product Mare Fertility, when the mare becomes pregnant, do you continue to feed it throughout the pregnancy?
I would check that point. If that point's hot, I would keep using it, but no, it's not something they have to be on indefinitely. No. Once you've accomplished that, once you've accomplished the fact that they got pregnant, then I'd move to the maintenance. Just give them the nutrients necessary to make that next horse.
Outstanding. Let's see if we can get Morgan. I like how the questions are rolling in now.
Hi.
Hey Morgan, are you there?
Oh yeah, I'm here. Might have kids in the background, but I'm here.
That's fine. What question do you have for us?
I have a mare. We've been trying to get her bred. It's not that she's not ovulating. She just seems to ovulate faster than we can catch her. Like they don't think she's going to go, and then she goes faster. I was just wondering if the mare fertility might kind of help regulate her a little more regularly, or if that's just going to be an odd thing that she's going to do anyways.
I would not be afraid to try it. I don't know on that. Is it a strong follicle, or are you harvesting?
Yeah, no, they've all been really good follicles. I missed her twice last year, and then we finally caught her, and then I flushed the embryo out. It looked like a great embryo. My recip mare that timed out with her was a little older than I would have liked, so she ended up absorbing the follicle. We're trying to get her bred again this year, and we've missed her twice. I think we may have finally caught her this last time. I got to go get her checked on the 29th. I was just wondering for future reference, because she is going to be a brood mare, if there was any chance that that might help regulate her, make her a little easier to catch for future.
Well, and let's refer back to the early part of the conversation too. It might be that that the mare fertility will not do it. I don't know whether it will or won't, but if it doesn't do it, you might try the mare moods, because it might be a progesterone thing.
Yeah. All right. Perfect. Thank you. I missed the first part of the call because I was.
If you don't, we make two combinations. One, the mare fertility increase supports estrogen, and the mare moods supports progesterone. And so one way or the other is going to help. Now, it might be a progesterone thing. So if that be the case, then it would be the mare moods.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, you know, that's what I love about the herbal products that we have, is that, you know, we know that it's completely safe to use, and we can try different things. You know, I mean, that's one thing I learned from an early age is don't be afraid to try some things. If one thing isn't working, let's pivot over here and try this. And, you know, opposed to the synthetics and the drugs, you know, you can't be that free with that and have that option to do that. So, and not to mention we get to the root of the issue over here at Silver Lining Herbs. When you get to the root of the issues, the symptoms go away, right? So that's awfully cool. Dad, as always, we're extremely grateful that you're on these calls every week. I continue to learn myself. And, you know, we're going to keep doing this every single Friday and busting these calls out and talking about different topics. If you guys have any topics at all that you want us to talk about in the near future, please feel free to put them over here in the chats. Also, get on our social sites, because we put out a ton of information over there as well, at Silver Lining Herbs on Instagram, obviously our Facebook pages. Be a part of our YouTube channels. You know, we try to put out as much information as we can there. Tack Room Talk, we're going to start kicking those back off again, the podcast with me and Chance. And, you know, we've had Sherry Cervi on our podcast in the past and kind of got in depth with her past a little bit. So we just enjoy seeing you guys face to face, answering the questions, and just spreading the knowledge about Silver Lining Herbs and what the power herbs can do. And it's just fun to have these chats. So everybody have a good weekend, and we can't wait to see you guys next week. Be safe, be healthy, and be a legend. Adios, everyone.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks, Chance.